Everybody shift across. But when you're playing against top teams in the top league, in the best league in the world, teams are going to have chances.
Of course.
You know, no matter what you do, because people, you know, Newcastle have got one or two decent creative players, and they've got willing runners, especially on the on both flanks. When you look at Gordon, because we looked at Gordon. He's pacey.
Very pacey.
You know, we all know how quick Kyle is, but Kyle's like, oh, I tell you what, I've got a race on here sometimes. You know, because he does like to cut inside. He's got a little bit about him. Almiron sometimes, as I said, even if he's not playing very well, he will run. He's a willing runner. And of course, you've got Trippier making them overlaps, which we've seen 2 or 3 times. So it's going to be inevitable. They're going to create some chances. It's just impossible not to give them absolutely anything. But as I said, communication is a big part, because if you haven't got your man, you're making sure that your partner, you pass it on and you tell him so he can pick him up, and vice versa. But obviously, chances will come for both teams.
Speaking of those chances, Shaun, I mean, I can't think of many too clear cut from City. We had the moment of brilliance from Phil. There was a Gundogan header. You know, I think Kev's been unlucky with a block being crossed. If we wanted to try and fashion a few more chances, is there anything you maybe noticed that maybe City could do just to maybe get that next goal and give us a bit of breathing space?
Well, we certainly need the next goal, because Newcastle keep pushing. I think they'll create the odd 1 or 2 chances, but I think the opportunity it'll come through. I think as there's spaces between your fullbacks and your centre-backs. I think Dan Burns going to be occupied with Foden, because Foden he's slightly beaten of him when he's had that situation. So I think Burn will, as much as he wants to be inside, he wants to try to get out to Foden as quickly as possible, because if Foden gets the momentum of running, it then becomes more difficult. And I think when he starts to inch a little bit further wider, that's where those gaps starts to occur. And likewise, on the other side, if that fullback starts to get out wide, Trippier, if he starts to go out a little cheat, then there's gaps in between. I think that's where we can hurt them with, you know, Gundogan making those runs in between, De Bruyne making those runs in between, can open them up.
Yeah, and from the Newcastle side, Steve, you know, I guess you're going in 1-0 at the Etihad Stadium, you probably go, we'll take that 45 minutes still to play. What do you think we might see in the second half from them, or what will Eddie Howe be saying, do you think, in that Newcastle changing room?
I think he'd be pretty much keep it the same. I mean, I think Newcastle's been quite aggressive. It has been a bit of a physical battle out there. You know, both teams have been quite happy to put the foot in and get the body across, and whereas at times teams will sit off and Man City can have just basically the run of the place. Newcastle haven't allowed them. They're getting in the faces. There've been some, you know, nice little challenges. Referee, I think, has done quite all right. I do feel as though Trippier could have possibly been booed for the one on Grealish. I think that was a bit blatant. But Eddie'd be reasonably pleased. They'd be saying, listen, keep it tight. You know, don't concede another one, and we've always got a chance. And like I said, I touched on at the start of the game, you look at the Nottingham Forest game, they had so many chances, Man City, and just couldn't finish them off and got punished at the end. That's what I'd be telling the players.
Yeah, fingers crossed, though. We won't see a repeat of that. On Twitter, a player that you mentioned before that you like is Isak, of course, and obviously we know they've got St Maxim as well on the bench, so possibly the introduction of them, and them two bring a very different threat to what we're seeing at the moment, won't they?
Yes, I would imagine the two of them will get on. Almiron hasn't quite done much offensively. I haven't watched and seen what he's done defensively, but I can imagine he could be one that'll come on. Both of those players, I think, if they came on, would add more questions to City defending. I just think that, again, Isak and how he moves around, he finds spaces and able to link up with Newcastle the times I've seen him. At Maximum, he's a player that, you know, goes inside. You know, it's probably his end product that people speak about, but I think if you're talking about asking questions, he's somebody that I think will come and ask a couple of questions and could change it from Newcastle's point of view. So I think City will be expecting him, because Pep talked about him in his pre-talk about mentioning him. So I think there'll be an awareness that if he comes on, what's the plan if he comes on as well?
You know, with someone like St Maxim, I mean, because I think I was saying to you before, Steve, when he's on, you know, because we know he's got both feet, he's very strong, his agility is great. He is quite a difficult player to stop. So when he comes on, what will City have to do to try and, you know, combat the ability that he can bring onto the pitch if he's on song? Because we know he blows a hot.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I'm playing full-back against them, I'm sending them inside all day long. And I'll be wanting my centre-halves to help me out.
Yeah.
As I said, sometimes he can come inside and then he could beat the centre-half. He's got that about him, and then he can beat the other centre-half and then come back and beat them all three again and then gives the ball away. That's how frustrating he is. That's why Newcastle fans is like, well, you know, he's just one of them players. But he can create stuff, there's no doubt about that, and he can cause problems. As I said, it's always just about his final ball, but I think if the manager is looking, Etihad is looking to make changes, I would be probably bringing Almiron off, putting Gordon on that side, and then bringing St Maximin or Isak there, and even then he could actually put either one over the other side as well and keep Gordon where he is, because I think Gordon is kind of matching, dare I say it, Walker's pace.
Yeah.
So, give either Isak or and St Maximin a go against Aki.
Aki at the other side. And then from City's perspective, as we know, Pep likes what he sees. He rarely changes it, but we said as well, one great thing to come out of today's game is we're looking like we've got a fully fit squad, so we might see a few changes as well in the second half. Bernardo Silva's on the bench, you've got Mahrez on there, Alvarez, lots of goals, lots of energy.
I know, all those names, what they bring, this is quality. He can remain with the players that are there. I think what he'll look for is just more control. The fact that when Newcastle have the ball, they are threatened. They're not doing a low block. They're actually saying we'll go toe to toe. So I think Pep doesn't like that. We're in a game where they have possession and then create chances. He'll want to make sure that can we keep it for longer spells to really put them in a low block position to then go, right, we've got them in a low block. We're now more prepared, even in transition. If we lose it, we've got players in position to go, you can't counter-attack against us. So more control is what he'll be after.
Absolutely. Gents, pleasure as always. Thank you very much to Steve and Shaun. And thank you to Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison. They've got commentary on the City app, so get on there to listen to it. And we'll be back at full time, hopefully talking about a City win, and that will of course close the gap to Arsenal to 2 points. Obviously they'll have a game in hand, but let's keep that pressure on. 45 minutes still to play at the Etihad. It's Manchester City 1, Newcastle 0. Andy Morrison and Alistair Mann, over to you, gents.
Thank you, Kel. You joined me just as Newcastle make their way onto the park. No sign of City emerging from the tunnel, but they are in it. We just saw a shot of the tunnel. And I'm looking out to see if there are any changes, and it doesn't look as though Newcastle have made any. So they're the same 11 that started. And I don't think City have made any either. So we're as we were at the start of play, same 22. The Blues with Walker, Akanji, Diaz and Ake. Rodri the deep lying, Gundogan, De Bruyne, Grealish and Foden out wide, and Haaland down the middle. Newcastle are set up and ready to go. City yet to emerge from the tunnel. And we're all looking to check that the same 11 are indeed intact for City. Pep Guardiola's the first City employee to emerge from that tunnel, and now his players do, led out by Ilkay Gundogan. And it is indeed the same 11 for City that began the game. Well, Newcastle come into this in their most disappointing run of form of the season. They haven't won in their last 4 matches in all competitions, 2 draws and 2 defeats. They've not won any of the last 4 in the Premier League, 1 defeat to Liverpool and 3 draws. And they've failed to score in 4 of their last 7 matches. So the Blues know that Newcastle come here, yes, still in touching distance of the Champions League, but certainly not in the peak of their condition. And it is they, the visitors, who've got the second half underway, and they've already played a long ball forward, which Ederson will come and gather